The entire city was in celebration. Flags waved on every corner, and the streets of Washington, D.C., echoed with the sound of applause and enthusiastic speeches. People of all ages crowded the sidewalks, eager to witness a historic moment, the inauguration of the new President of the United States. It was January, and the typical chill of the American winter seemed not to bother the crowd, warmed by the excitement and the promises of a new beginning. Children held small signs with messages of hope, while adults discussed, in optimistic tones, the possible directions the country might take under the new leadership. Near the Capitol, where the president-elect would take the oath of office, the atmosphere was even more electrifying. Journalists hurried back and forth, capturing images and live reports for television networks around the world. Among them, a rookie reporter, Lisa Martin, tried to steady her nerves. This was her first major assignment, and she knew the moment would be unforgettable, both for her career and for the nation. The ballroom gleamed in golden hues at the prestigious Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C. It was a gala evening, marked by the brilliance of crystal chandeliers and the muted sound of conversations among political leaders, business people, and diplomats from across Latin America. The event celebrated the eve of Donald Trump's inauguration as President of the United States, and the air was thick with anticipation and negotiations that could shape the future of entire nations. Among the guests, Michelle Bolsonaro stood out, flawless in a dark green dress that seemed to catch every beam of light in the room. Beside her, Eduardo Bolsonaro wore a perfectly tailored black suit. The two exchanged greetings and smiles with prominent figures in international politics, but behind her composed demeanor, Michelle maintained a vigilant gaze, always seeking connections that could benefit her country. She was known for her warmth and her ability to listen, qualities that set her apart in a world often dominated by cold and calculated interests. Not far from the hotel's grandeur, Emily Rosa, a 43-year-old cleaner, sat on a bench outside. She held a small backpack in her hands, inside of which she had carefully placed medical documents, photographs, and a letter she had rewritten dozens of times until it felt just right. Beside her, her 10-year-old daughter, Maya, rested her head on her shoulder. Maya's large brown eyes reflected both the innocence of childhood and the pain of years spent battling a rare illness. Despite her visible fatigue, the girl still managed a faint smile. Emily was not someone easily impressed by luxury or power. Life had taught her to be pragmatic. As a cleaner at a modest hotel and occasionally covering shifts for friends at a hospital in Washington, she worked long hours to support her daughter. Her greatest dream was to secure the treatment that could save Maya's life. An expensive, rare treatment that was out of reach for a Brazilian immigrant with limited means. Emily knew that tonight was her one chance. She had heard rumors that Michelle Bolsonaro would be attending, and in her heart, she believed that the wife of her country's former president and a prominent political figure could help. "Mom, do you think they'll listen to us?" Maya asked softly, her voice filled with hope. Emily gently stroked her daughter's hair and replied firmly, "We have to try, my love. You deserve this chance, and I will do everything I can to make it happen." Summoning her courage, Emily took Maya's hand and stood at the hotel entrance. Her eyes were immediately drawn to the glittering chandeliers and the red carpets. She felt a flutter of nerves as she noticed the stark contrast between herself and the other attendees. Her simple uniform and humble demeanor made her feel like an outsider in that glamorous setting. Still, she held her head high, motivated by Maya's presence by her side. Michelle Bolsonaro had just stepped out of a car to enter the hotel when Emily called out to her, her voice trembling. Michelle's warm smile and calm demeanor made her stand out in the crowd. Emily squeezed Maya's hand, took a deep breath, and walked toward her. When she got close, she waited for a pause in the conversation before speaking. "Excuse me, Mrs. Michelle," Emily said, her voice shaky but determined. "May I speak with you for a moment?" Michelle turned immediately, her eyes meeting Emily's. She noticed the tension on the woman's face and the curious look in Maya's eyes. With a gentle gesture, she replied, "Of course. How can I help you?" Emily quickly explained her situation. She talked about Maya's condition, the years of struggle, and the financial difficulties they faced. Michelle listened intently, holding Maya's hand as the girl shyly looked at the ground. "My daughter is very strong, Mrs. Michelle, but we are running out of time. The hospital where she's being treated has the resources to save her, but we can't afford to pay for the full treatment," Emily concluded, tears streaming down her face. Michelle was visibly moved. She took the letter Emily had written and read every word carefully. After a few moments, she turned to Eduardo and said, "We need to do something." Eduardo nodded, picking up his phone to make a few calls. Meanwhile, Michelle spoke with Emily about the next steps. She promised to use her influence to contact the hospital director and ensure Maya was placed on the transplant list. That night, Emily returned home with a mix of hope and anxiety. She knew there was still much to be done, but Michelle's support was a ray of light in the darkness. The following morning, a meeting was arranged at the hospital. Eduardo was acquainted with the hospital director, as he had studied alongside his son Henry, who kindly agreed to assist with Maya's treatment. Emily and Maya were accompanied by Michelle and Eduardo Bolsonaro. During the meeting, Emily shared her story with everyone present, including doctors, lawyers, and government representatives. "My daughter is not just a number on a list," Emily said, her voice firm and filled with emotion. "She's a little girl full of dreams who wants to live and contribute to this world. Please, give her a chance." The doctors were deeply moved by Emily's passion and Maya's story. After listening to all the arguments, the hospital director announced that Maya would be immediately added to the treatment program, and that the cost of the treatment would be covered by a charitable fund. Emily broke down in tears, hugging Maya with all the strength she had. Michelle was also emotional, wiping away tears as she held Emily's hand. "You made this happen, Emily. Your courage and determination are incredible," Michelle said. Maya's surgery was scheduled for the following week. Unfortunately, Michelle couldn't stay in the country any longer due to commitments in Brazil and had to return. However, she asked a friend who lived in the United States to stay with Emily and Maya and keep her updated on their progress. In the days leading up to the procedure, Emily received support not only from Michelle, but also from her hospital colleagues and members of the Brazilian community in Washington. When the day of the surgery finally arrived, Emily spent hours in the waiting room, praying and anxiously awaiting the outcome. After what felt like an eternity, the surgeon finally appeared with a smile on his face. The surgery was a success. Maya is recovering well. Emily broke down in tears, thanking God and everyone who had helped. When she saw Maya for the first time after the surgery, she could barely contain her emotions. "You're my warrior, my little one," she said, holding her daughter's hand. While Maya's delicate surgery was taking place in the United States, the impact of her story was already unfolding thousands of miles away in Brazil. Michelle Bolsonaro, who had returned to the country after her brief stay in Washington, refused to let Emily and Maya's cause be forgotten. Determined to create a lasting impact, she began organizing meetings with politicians, business leaders, and influential artists to establish a cooperative program between Brazil and the American hospital where Maya was being treated. Michelle hosted a meeting in Brazil, bringing together public health experts and community leaders to discuss ways to replicate the medical advancements from the United States in Brazil. Inspired by her encounter with Emily, she used her charisma and influence to rally the attendees, presenting emotional videos and testimonials about Maya's case and other children facing similar challenges. The cause gained significant momentum when popular artists began to get involved. Singers, actors, and influencers shared Emily and Maya's story on social media, using their platforms to raise funds and pressure authorities. A benefit concert was organized in Rio de Janeiro, where prominent musicians performed to raise resources. Emily returns to Brazil with her daughter. Michelle, always by Emily's side, made a point to attend the events. Despite her prominent position, she dedicated herself to giving visibility to Emily's work, emphasizing the importance of ordinary people in building a better future. "Emily represents the strength of Brazilian mothers," she said in heartfelt speeches. Finally, the efforts bore fruit. An unprecedented partnership was established between the American hospital and 3 major healthcare centers in Brazil. A team of doctors from the United States would travel to Brazil to train local professionals, teaching advanced surgical techniques and treatment methods for rare diseases. The project, named Bridges of Hope, was announced as a milestone in pediatric medicine in the country. Emily was invited to contribute to the project in her beloved homeland, allowing her to stay close to her family. With the project's success, Emily was asked to participate in awareness campaigns across the country. Overwhelmed with emotion, she donned a simple yet elegant outfit and delivered a speech that brought tears to everyone's eyes. "I never imagined that my calloused hands, which for so many years cleaned hallways, could one day open doors to save lives. I didn't do this for myself, but for my daughter and for all the children who deserve a chance." As the project flourished, Emily continued her involvement in nationwide campaigns. She visited schools, churches, and underserved communities, sharing her story and encouraging families to fight for their rights. She became a symbol of hope, proving that courage and determination can transform lives. Meanwhile, Maya recovered well from her surgery. Doctors reported the procedure was a success, and the girl, now with a radiant smile, sent messages of gratitude to the American doctors as thousands of people followed her journey to recovery. The story of Emily and Maya was featured in documentaries, books, and news reports. Thanks to the support of Michelle Bolsonaro and many Brazilians, the Bridges of Hope program continued to grow, helping underprivileged children in both countries. Emily proudly said, "It doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. If you believe and fight, you can make a difference. I did it for my daughter, but life has shown me that there are many Maya out there waiting for help. And I won't stop as long as I can do something for them." The story, which began on a sidewalk in Washington, transcended borders and became a legacy of compassion and unity between nations. If you enjoyed this story, comment on how it moved you, subscribe to the channel, and leave your like.